In the early 1970s, Albuquerque, New Mexico stopped to catch its breath after more than 2 decades of rapid post-World War II growth. The interstate highways had been completed, Windrock and Coronado malls were open for business, and the wide-open spaces of the Northeast Heights were filled with new housing. But there was still one event that would transform the city.
You know, there's still a few of us, a dwindling number, who remember what Albuquerque was like in 1970 and before there was a balloon fiesta. And at the time, the state fair was the big event in the state. It was the great place where all New Mexicans came. And the state fair is great. It's a wonderful event. It involves young people in a lot of different ways. It's exciting. But like most state fairs, it's kind of a local affair. It's a family affair for New Mexicans. Sid Cutter had a birthday party as an event for his company, his aviation company, and needed to decorate a hangar. And so needed something big and bought a balloon to be the centerpiece of his decorations. And then went out and flew it and fell in love. And that one act evolved. The one balloon floating away into the sky and people running after it and being entranced by it. And that multiplied in Albuquerque into 2 and 3 and 4 and 10 and 20 and 100 and hundreds. And the critical mass of that became sufficient to provide the expertise to support an event like the Balloon Fiesta. And that really has changed Albuquerque permanently.
Cutter's party and subsequent flight in 1971 would indirectly lead to the first KOB birthday bash and balloon race in April of 1972, now recognized as the inaugural Balloon Fiesta. It also inspired scores of Albuquerque residents to take up the sport and led to the city being dubbed the ballooning capital of the world.
Sid Cutter was a visionary, he was an idea guy, and he was also a do guy. How many of us have great ideas, but we don't know how to implement the ideas? Or some of us are great implementers, but we don't have a creative bone in our head. But Sid was all of that.
Oh. Sid was an aviation pioneer. He flew all his life. He made his living in fixed-wing aircraft. But he never talked about fixed wing so much. He got really hooked on ballooning, and he was the president of Cutter Flying Service at the time, and he turned it over to his brother, Bill Cutter, and said, I'm going to take up ballooning more seriously, and he started a balloon company.
Ballooning has basically changed my life and my family's life from all the people that we've got to meet and got to interact with and become friends with and drink beer with and have fun with. We know each other's families. We have 3rd-generation balloon pilots from this group of volunteer balloonists here in New Mexico and lots of other places around the world. Sid Cutter was the person who got me going on that road of friendship and fun. I and hundreds, maybe thousands of people have Sid Cutter to thank for that.
Oh, ballooning has changed our life. When we were very active, our family, every vacation was ballooning, going to a rally somewhere around the country, going to the Nationals in Indianola, Iowa, sometimes going overseas. I've been to Germany and Belgium and Switzerland and New Zealand. So it's all related to ballooning. So it definitely changed our life.
There's been this symbiosis that has gone on between the local ballooning community in Albuquerque, those of us that just go out and fly because we love it. Just like people have fly fishing or motorboats or, whatever they do for recreation. There's the symbiosis between that and the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, which is the showcase for that, internationally.
Yep, it's all Sid's doing. It really is. Sid is the founder of ballooning here. We miss him very much. I don't know, if we didn't have Sid, this may not have happened. I don't know that anybody else would have really picked up ballooning and run with it the way he did. Sid Cutter's the hero. He's the one that got us where we are today.
Of course, it helped that Cutter lived in an ideal spot for ballooning. Weather, geography, and a population that was crazy about balloons all came together to make the Balloon Fiesta a monster event.
Certainly having the biggest event on an annual basis goes a long way to say we're the balloon capital of the world. Being the home of the Balloon Fiesta every year, that's important, I think.
I think Balloon Fiesta grew here in large part because of the weather. I tell people we have over 350 days of sun a year, and they don't believe me until they come here, and then they realize there's some truth to that, and it's the weather here just can't be beat, and it's temperate. So we do have a winter, but it's not a severe winter. We do have summer, but it's usually not severe summer. I had a friend that moved to Vermont for several years. He only had about 4 months out of the year that he could actually fly, maybe 5, because there was so much snow on the ground that wasn't an option. And then there's folks in Phoenix on the other end of the spectrum. There's several months out of the summer that they can't fly because it's too hot. We've got the geography here, and the mountain, and you've got there's just so many things that are conducive to just great ballooning that's why.
The Fiesta is unusual in the fact that they do allow the crowd amongst the balloons. So they're actually able to come out. You can be standing around the basket, go touch the fabric, get hands-on some of that. A lot of times the crowd is actually, pulled in from the pilot saying, hey, would you mind holding this line or doing something for me? And there's no other place that really allows that. There's several events around the country, but a lot of them actually fence off the spectators from the balloon.
We got the best weather, we got the landing areas, we got a river you can do a splash and dash, and just a whole lot of local support.
It's such an integral part of the culture. It's just a big part of Albuquerque. It's you expect to wake up and on your drive into work see balloons in the air. That's part of what we are.
And people love it here, so they come and they stay, and we have more balloons here, literally, per capita than most balloon rallies.
It's very typical for people to just come out to Balloon Fiesta and fall in love. Some people can come to Balloon Fiesta and they look at the balloons and they go, oh, that's pretty, and they go home. But there are people who come to Balloon Fiesta and are so taken with the color and the excitement and the magic that they just have to be part of it somehow.
Evolving with the times, the Fiesta grew from a friendly gathering of balloon enthusiasts to the massive gathering it's become today. Since 1972, the Fiesta changed sites 6 times, overcame financial challenges, added special events, and passed a number of milestones.
Of necessity, the Balloon Fiesta has become a much more regimented operation, just because when you've got 100,000 people coming into one place, you're essentially building a small city that can accommodate all of everything that you would have to have for a small city. Sanitation and food and drink and traffic control and everything else you can imagine, not just for people on the ground that are gathering for an event, but also for that three-dimensional show up in the sky. And those of us that were around in the good old days when almost anything went, as long as it was safe, because safety has always been the number one factor. It is not quite as carefree and devil may care as it used to be, which is probably in some ways a very good thing. But we've had to do that in order to provide a safe and coordinated, as the launch directors say, experience for the people that come and visit the Fiesta.
Officials have also made the event safer for balloonists and even more spectator-friendly over time.
Fiesta's definitely evolved over the years. It's become even more safety-oriented and really driven home with all the pilots. Because what we do is it is a high-risk sport if you don't pay attention. You know, there's a lot of things that can get you.
We've gotten smarter. We now know how to run a large event. We made lots of mistakes in the early days. The safety is, we made some changes to our safety, rules about how fast the wind can be blowing before we allow the balloons to take off from the balloon fiesta. Because when we started this, and when Sid Cutter started this, we didn't know very much how to fly a balloon and how to put a balloon together and what was safe and what wasn't safe. I mean, we've often on the West Mesa, we would fly when today you would say, well, that's too windy. Or I see lightning in the west, that's coming this way. And some of those days in the very early, in the 70s, oh, the hell with that lightning, I'll be down before that gets here. Today we don't say that. Lightning is not a good thing for balloons. So there have been changes.
This is gonna sound strange, but one of the biggest changes is the ability to launch on grass. The first 4 fields we had were all dirt. When we first moved to our current field, it was dirt, and then we had, like, the south third was grass. And now, of course, the whole field is grass, has been for 20-some years. And I guess that's a symbol of all the amenities that have happened at the park that have just made Balloon Fiesta much more comfortable, much more attractive, easier to spend the entire day there. And so while the flying is great and the spectacle of balloons in the air is great, all the amenities that have been done around the park and that Balloon Fiesta and the city have put into this have just made it an even more pleasurable experience to enhance what has always been a fabulous ballooning experience.
Ask almost anyone who's attended a Balloon Fiesta, and they will tell you there is nothing like the early morning mass ascension.
We can shoot the ground as we take off. We can shoot from the ground going up. We can put a camera right up next to a burner going off. And you'll get the sound and you'll get the visual, but you don't get the rest of that ambience. The pressure from that burner, the heat that comes off that burner, the amount of light that automatically spreads there, just the ambiance of being in and among balloons.
Well, people have seen pictures of the Balloon Fiesta, but there are things that you just don't see unless you come to the launch site. You don't get the experience of walking through the field and looking up, and there's a whole canopy of color hanging over you. And it's like walking through a cathedral almost. And you don't hear the noise of the burners, which some balloonists say is like dragons talking to one another. And you don't feel the heat coming out of the envelopes. If you're close to the basket and the pilot turns the burner on, you know, those burners generate a lot of heat, and it actually comes down around the basket. which is really great when it's cold. If you're not on the field, you don't experience the sensation of that canopy of color lifting away from you and heading off into the sky. You know, I think every child has held a balloon at some point and has, on purpose or accidentally, let it go. And you watched it as it goes up, and wow, I wish I could do that. Well, at the Balloon Fiesta, you can.
While nothing beats a mass ascension, the Balloon Glow and Special Shapes Rodeo have become cherished parts of the Balloon Fiesta experience.
Special Shapes Rodeo was started in 1989, and it was kind of a lot of people had the same idea at the same time. But you were starting to see more special shapes at Fiesta throughout the 80s. There were a scattered few in the 1970s. Then in the 1980s, you started seeing, you had Air Force One, which was the Mickey Mouse balloon. You had the Financial Times newspaper. You had the Virgin Airlines jet. You had the Great Tony, and a number of others, and the number kept growing.
Every year we have about 100 special shaped balloons. We call them special shapes, but they're huge. They're a lot bigger. It takes a lot more crew to get them off the ground, and it's a lot more complicated to find a landing spot that'll handle it because they are bigger. But they sure are crowd pleasers. That's what everybody likes to see.
The first, what is now known as a balloon glow, as far as we know in the world, was held in Albuquerque in 1979. It was a whole group of balloonists that got together as part of the Luminaria tour, kind of as a thank you to the city of Albuquerque. And there's a whole story behind that. But suffice it to say, people were wowed and loved it. In 1987, Scotty Appleman decided that we should have a balloon glow at Balloon Fiesta. And of course, it being Balloon Fiesta, it was going to be the biggest and loudest balloon glow ever.
I'm out there, we've got all these people around us, and it's just getting started. I'm talking to some spectators, talking about balloons, which is what I seem to do when I'm out there around those types of things. And I didn't realize that it had gotten dark around us because everybody's burners had quit.
And they had coordinated with KOB to have all of the pilots listen to KOB on their little transistor or portable radios. And they went into this countdown, 10, 9, 8, and they hit 0.
And we had 250, 300 balloonists all hit their burners at the exact same time.
And there was this huge noise. I mean, you know what one burner sounds like. It's pretty loud. Well, 300 of them. And you could feel the heat coming off of the field, even across Main Street, which is where I was.
From total darkness, or almost total darkness, the amount of light, heat, and roar from those burners just knocked me over. And it was like, wow, it was so incredible to have that feeling.
And all of a sudden, everybody on the field started screaming, just cheering. People still think that was the biggest rush they've ever had at Balloon Fiesta. It was pretty incredible.
As the Balloon Fiesta has grown, so has the need for plucky volunteers and savvy vendors to deal with the logistics of getting balloons launched, cars parked, and people fed. Just a few of the dozens of tasks necessary to bring off Fiesta.
So just the flight operations. We have 4 major groups. The one is the scoring officials, or the scoring group, and they do all of the competitions. So they only work on competition days, Monday through Friday. We have the launch directors that make sure that all of the balloons take off safely, and that we don't have any any collisions or any issues on the field. Once they get off the field, we can't really control that much. That's our biggest group because we do have so many balloons, and you have to have a launch director release them to go fly. Up from the launch directors, we have the safety officials, and there's about 12 of us, and we basically kind of, you hate to use the word police because that's not what we're trying to do. We want to make sure everybody's safe. And it may be anything from moving balloons around before a launch to make sure everybody has enough space, to making sure a fan gets shut off in the middle of inflation when if something happens, or like I say, we're all pilots, so we all have that experience, and we check their balloons to make sure they're airworthy. And then there's the assistant balloon meister and balloon meister. So the balloon meister basically is in charge of all of the flight operations, and the assistant balloon meister really just it's kind of a training role to be balloon meister, and also as a backup, and that's the person that kind of the gopher, fight fires, whatever needs to be done, that person does it.
Balloon Fiesta has a paid year-round staff of 20 people. And to put on an event that brings in $170-some million in 9 days, that brings in almost 900,000 visitors to the field over those 9 days, there's no way those 20 people can do it. So we depend on a huge cadre of volunteers. A number of years ago, we started calling them navigators. We have somewhere on the order of 1,000 to 1,100 navigators, and they do literally everything. From filling propane tanks for heaters that are intense, to greeting people as they come into the park, to being on scoring teams, chase crew teams, propane filling teams, information booths, gondola club ambassadors, chase club ambassadors, group tours. I'm gonna get in trouble for missing probably 90% of the groups. There are so many things that go on, I can't tell you all of them. And we certainly could not do that without them.
Volunteerism is really the essence of the Balloon Fiesta.
And what would Balloon Fiesta be without hot coffee, donuts, and breakfast burritos?
It's hard to imagine Balloon Fiesta without the vendors, without all the things that sometimes you look forward to only getting at Balloon Fiesta. And I think that's part of the whole experience for the community and for the visitors. Being a sponsor at Balloon Fiesta, the coffee sponsor, our obligation is to provide coffee to all the servicemen, so police, fire, all public safety, and to the pilots. So I think last year was 100,000 cups of coffee throughout the 9-day festival. It's actually quite a feat to make 100,000 cups of coffee in that short amount of time. The planning starts months in advance. We have to predict, how much coffee ground we'll use, how many cups, lids, cream, sugar, the whole spectrum of product that goes into that, just drinking a cup of coffee. 3 a.m. we start brewing, grinding and brewing the coffee on field. We brewed right there, and then we deliver them to various locations on the field. Coffee is the most important fuel, not propane, during the Balloon Fiesta.
The Balloon Fiesta, as great as it is, only lasts for 9 days each year. What's an aficionado to do the rest of the year? Well, if you're not going up in a balloon, you might want to visit the Anderson Abruzzo Albuquerque International Balloon Museum. From balloon history to balloon heroes, the museum features it all.
The museum was founded in 2005, 15 years ago, in honor of Ben Abruzzo and Maxie Anderson, two ballooning legends who put Albuquerque on the map.
Balloonists have always been my heroes. I was probably that weird kid at school, not the typical one. I wasn't at all the football games or baseball games, and that wasn't really my area. It was always about ballooning, and so instead of collecting baseball cards, I was collecting pins from my heroes, or patches of balloon flights. And that's always who I looked up to. I found their feats to be remarkable. I found the amount of planning that it took, and the bravery actually to set off on some of these type of things remarkable.
Uplifting spirits and telling tales of adventures is what we do best here at the Balloon Museum. We have an extensive collection of ballooning memorabilia and artifacts, and we pull the best from that collection to show you at the Balloon Museum. Not only do we have pieces from our collection, but we also have hands-on interactives that help people understand the world of ballooning firsthand.
In addition to celebrating the exploits of intrepid balloon pilots, the museum and its annex have become home to more than 30,000 objects related to ballooning and ballooning history. Items range from giant gondolas to tiny balloon pins, from rare letters penned by early balloonists to the official weather report for the inaugural Balloon Fiesta in 1972.
Our collection is really far-ranging, both geographically and temporally. We have artifacts from countries that, frankly, I didn't even know about. Our overall collection is actually made up of smaller collections which have come to the museum. Really, I think you could say that we have one of the better type collections of baskets. We have gondolas that are used in sport ballooning, and we also have balloons that were used for in championships. We have gondolas that were used for epic flights. For example, hanging in the museum, we have the Zanussi, which was one of the early Atlantic crossing attempts. We have the Double Eagle 5, which is a huge gondola. It's probably 8 feet across and 10 feet tall and 20 feet long, and that was used for the first crossing in a gas balloon of the Pacific Ocean. We have a lot of manuscript documents, some quite early. In fact, one of our earliest pieces in the collection is from 1783, and it's a 4-page letter that was written by a gentleman who was at the very first test flight with living beings, a balloon that took off with a duck, a sheep, and a rooster. And when you're a museum curator, you're not supposed to have a favorite child, but that's my favorite child in the museum, because the 4th page of this letter just has the most beautiful wash painting of the balloon and the little basket, and if you look really close, you can see the sheep and the duck peering out of the basket.
So there you have it, the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, then and now.
The museum's mission is to inspire a spirit of exploration, discovery, and achievement through experiences that engage our visitors in the history, science, sport, and art of ballooning. And we're excited to share the stories of Balloon Fiesta with you. We're sad to be missing the Balloon Fiesta this year. It's something we look forward to all year long, but we invite you to come here to the Balloon Museum and experience the next best thing.